In this video, we're going to look at section 4 of the objectives for the Professional Horizon 7.7 exam 2019, where we're going to look at the configuration and management of Identity Manager. So this is configuration and management. So you are going to be asked questions about, for example, things like the minimum hardware and software requirements. There is a table that I'll show you where you can, for different sizes of implementation, see the requirements in terms of CPU memory and other aspects of the virtual machines that will be built for this. My suggestion would be probably concentrating on maybe 2 columns of numbers near the middle somewhere, and be aware of the sort of ballpark. It'd be very difficult to remember the entire table, but understanding a ballpark would probably give you enough information for any questions that might come up on that, and be aware of the networking requirements for it as well, and firewall rules, particularly if you're going to implement a reverse proxy. Just think about what the implications of that reverse proxy will be. Part of the process is deploying OVA, OVF files. So if you're familiar with OVF and OVA files, then this should be reasonably straightforward. It might just be a matter of making sure that you know which files that you're going to use and what information you're going to have to supply as part of the installation, and also think about the database options that you will have and the database types. And we'll see in the documentation where you can get information around that. And then, of course, once it's in place, you're going to be thinking about its configuration. So for things like SSL certificates, what the location of the certificates, where might you get a certificate for, even daft things like what might there have to be in the certificate, for example, as a friendly name for some of the components. So paying attention to that can be quite useful, in the usual syslog connections, and then thinking about what part Active Directory is going to play with Identity Manager, and things like users and groups and their use, and synchronization with Active Directory as well. Think about those and how you might set up about configure them, and also how might you provide somebody with the ability to manage the environment. So where in the Identity Manager console can you create and promote users? That'd be very useful for you to be able to understand. We'll have a look at the documentation in a bit. And then once you have Identity Manager in place, then thinking about how would it then in the background enable you to work with thin app applications, how you package thin app applications. This is a technology I think that's been overtaken a little bit, so it'd be a good idea to understand what thin app applications do, how they are constructed, what they're constructed from, but I don't think it's something that there'll be a lot of questions about. And then how do you make sure that applications are entitled and deployed? What are the steps that are involved with there? And then beyond Identity Manager, enabling Horizon Desktop access. So being aware of the process that's involved with that would be very helpful as well. So again, 1 or 2 documents for you to look at. So the first document I've got here is the Identity Manager install document, preparing to install Identity Manager. Great place to look, because what it has a great diagram about what the component parts, what you can expect to see, and also the ports that are used as well. It also talks you through the processes of the configuration requirements, the steps you would need to take in order to deploy it, and generally gives you a good insight into it as well. In the checklists, in the deployment checklists, you have the ability there really just to make sure that you have all of the components together. So there's Active Directory, there's LDAP, there's SSL certificates that we mentioned before as well. So this is this checklist is a great way of getting to know what you need to do in preparation for the installation of Identity Manager. And then if you need to take your own SSL certificates and perform the installation, here is a document that talks you through just that process, from the certificate signing request right through to the taking the resultant certificate and making it part of your system. And then Active Directory. So Active Directory, really the aspects of Active Directory that you need to give consideration to here is what is going to be synchronized and what is going to be replicated as well. And what this will take you through is all of the different ways in which Active Directory can be connected to all the different ways in which it can be synchronized, so that you can then see what the potential effects of it are, so that if any questions arise around its synchronization in particular, then you are ready for it. Also working with the console, we have the documentation here that talks us through all of the different uses of the console, navigating the console settings, or settings that are available to you within the console as well, and then how you set about managing policies. So policies for a web app or for a desktop application, and this talks you through the actual policy process itself, and how to create policies for what you want to achieve, or for your perspective, understanding what the consequence is, so that you can answer questions on the subject. So in this video, we have looked at the objectives for section 4, which is configure and manage Identity Manager. In the next video, we're going to look at the objectives in section 5, which is configure and manage the User Environment Manager, where we're going to look at the installation of the User Environment Manager and also managing it.